Actually, I don't consider this film a revenge for the death of Rick Hawkins. If anything, the predator that comes off best in the movie is one who's very similar to the predator that killed Hawkins, because he has a sense of sport and honor about him. And I think it's fun to wonder why the predator has endured for 30 years. You know, why this character? Why? And I think part of it is that he has this fun personality. There's a kind of mischievous quality to the predator. He has rules, right? He doesn't kill you if you're unarmed, and he makes a game of things. He tries to set up the most worthy opponent. So I dig the predator. I have no bad feelings towards the predator. I just think he's fun.
I think you know what? It would have been weird if we would have made a Predator film without Shane Black. That would have been. I don't think I would have done it for that sake.
I wanted to do this movie for a lot of reasons. But when it comes to what Shane brought to it, it wasn't as an actor in the previous film. That was a really cool thing. But he's really kind of made a huge mark and being really well known as a director and a writer, and deservingly so, because he's super talented at that. But it just was a really cool element that he was in the movie, and it is the right thing for the studio. Like, if we've got this guy who just happened to be in The Predator, who turned out to be such an amazing director and writer, and the guy who launched Robert Downey's resurgence back into Hollywood.
It's always difficult doing a new movie because you want to satisfy the fans. But if you don't give them something new or something interesting, they won't like that. And if you give them too many changes, they'll say, "Why did you change it? It wasn't broken. Why did you fix it?" And I think that The Predator offers opportunities, at least, for some understanding of things that have not yet been explained. Like, there must be different kinds of predators, right? Because they're not all wearing skulls and bones and nets, carrying spears. They're not just wanderers in a forest. They build spaceships. So there have to be predators that are engineers. There have to be different factions on Predator World, the classes of predator. And we decided that it might be fun, in the same way that there's an ancient myth about eating the heart of your enemy to absorb his strength. Well, the predators have conquered many strong enemies, and they have their DNA. So we figured, what if a group wanted to cheat? What if they were angry at Earth and said, let's roid out. Let's actually take steroids, in this case, this DNA, and they create this upgraded assassin, this sort of uber predator. Now, that's not all predators. Maybe that's not every group. In fact, some of the groups may say, we don't like what you're doing. That's kind of unfair. We still have this more traditional sense of honor. But I think that one really savage predator that strikes back at Earth, combined with the old predator, is fun.
I'll say I'm a fan of I've been a lover of all things geek my whole life, and this movie it's not a reboot and it's not a sequel. We are in the Predator world, but all Shane did was, now let's just live in a world where we've had the Predator exists, but let's take him out of the jungle, where he's far away, where the audiences are watching going, God, I never want to go wherever that is. But what if they couldn't escape him? Let's put him in the urban jungle, put him in our backyard, at our schools, on our streets, around our kids. And let's also put the most unlikely group of heroes in place to save the world. And let's see what happens, because the truth is, you see what's happening in the world lately, and people are put into situations where everyone's running for their lives, or either there are people who either stomp over other people to save themselves, or they're the people who pick up somebody and run with them, and that's realistic to the world that we're in now. So we have this predator that is not only in our world, but also Shane goes, and then on top of that, as we humans evolve, and animals evolve, and plants evolve, the alien is going to evolve as well. So let's make him badder, faster, more violent, more scary, the fiercest opponent that anybody could go up against. And I think that's why the fans will love it, because we're not just retelling the same old story. We're saying, like, it's the great question, what if?
Yeah, I think we just approach this like, how people re-envision plays because it is such an iconic piece.
You know what I will say? I think what fans of the original Predator will love is that we were always really thoughtful and tried really hard to put little Easter eggs, little moments throughout the film, little homages to the original that fans of the original will really love, and people who didn't know the original and didn't pick up on those will still have a laugh or be amused by it. But we really tried to show an homage. I remember filming the first time that we see this Predator out there, and he it's kind of one-on-one with me and him, and in the moment when we're filming it, Shane goes, "We should do a callback and make sure we do the vision of the Predator from the very first film and what he sees, and that green and that." He's like, "That's what we're," and it's like in that moment, he goes, "That's what we're doing." And we would always look for moments like that, like how can we honor the original, because we are in a world where the original exists, and so there are elements of the Predator that would still be there.
I think it's there's always a lot of fun in seeing people who are so good at what they do, the best in the world. And the first Predator movie certainly is an example of these really slick, powerful super soldiers with giant muscles and big weaponry. But I'm more interested in people who are really good at what they do. Maybe one thing that they do better than anybody else in the world, but the rest of their lives may not be so great. That's interesting to me. The characters who feel like they're closed off or hopeless, but they have something still that they're good at. When they get on that, all of a sudden they're so much better. Because I found for myself that there are things I'm very good at. I have a lot of neuroses and fears, but every once in a while the fear goes away when I latch on to the thing that I know how to do. I think it's more interesting to be flawed and imperfect and have to find yourself and your confidence and get up off the floor when you've been knocked down than it is to never get knocked down. With the character Casey, played by Olivia Munn, it was very important that we do a powerful, strong-willed character that just happened to be a woman. For instance, she picks up a gun and she knows how to use it. Maybe not perfectly, but she's not afraid to. And that was important without explaining it. How does she know how to use a gun? Well, you wouldn't ask that question if it were a man. So why are you asking it just because she's a woman? I think what's interesting to me about her character is that she has a keen curiosity. That's her strength. It's also her curse, is that when she sees something that interests her, everything else disappears. And so while the other guys are trying to kill the Predator to save their life, there's an element of her that's just curious. And a character that's curious is always interesting to me. Certainly she fits in, certainly she gives as good as she gets, and it was important that she not be the romantic interest. She's one of the soldiers, she's one of the protagonists. She doesn't have to have anything that's traditionally romantic going on for that to be valuable.
Well, that was the reason why I signed on to do the movie. When I was originally offered the role, I assumed that it would be the love interest, and that's just, as an actor, for me, I'm personally not interested in playing those types of roles. And I said, no, thank you, but I will definitely go see the movie because I'm a fan and I would love to see it, but it's not the role for me. And then they called back and said, would you meet with the director and the producer? And they explained to me that, the lead female role is not the love interest, and in fact, the lead male role has his own family, and so that was where it started, and that was important to me, and that's what Shane envisioned as well. So it was and it's not the first time that this is where a female is not a damsel in distress. We're seeing more and more of it. I can call out a lot of movies, Hunger Games or V for Vendetta. I mean, there's so many. There just happens to be a lot more, and there's been a longer history of more just typically male-only led movies or damsel in distress, for the female actors. But in general, for both men and women, we've all evolved. I mean, BOYD's character, he wouldn't have been able to, in the 80s, play such a nuanced character that has so much vulnerability and is worried if he's a good father, In the 80s, I mean, could you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger wondering, like, am I a good father? In the middle of like, get to the chopper. Where's my son? It just wouldn't work. And so I think, we've all evolved and all given different opportunities that make more sense to the time that we're in right now.